Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Good afternoon? Yeah, great, great. Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Pat Heaney. I'm the Assistant Director of Education at the Watershed Institute. And this session we're in is called WatershedNJ, an interactive tool for regional planning. That's where you are. That's where you want to be? Okay, great. All right, I want to, of course, thank all our sponsors. Without them, this would not be possible. So, and you can visit them down in the downstairs. Okay, for our people who are joining us online, we're about to start. We've started, and you can email if you're having any issues. Okay, we ask, of course, that you all silence your cell phones. And during the Q&A, I don't know, in this room, do we have a pass around mic? Cool, we pass it around. Otherwise, we have to repeat everything you say so that the people who are attending remotely can hear. So we'll get to the Q&A at the end. And for those of you who are at home or remote on Zoom, you can put your questions in the Q&A and we will address them at the end of the session. All right, I think that we got all that. All right, I want to just quickly introduce our speakers and then I'll let Bob take over. So we have Janine Barr, Senior Research Specialist. We have Kate Douthat, did I say it right? Okay, another Senior Research Specialist. Richard Lathrop from the Johnson Family Chair. And Bob Schuster is going to be our moderator for this panel. All right, Bob, do you want to take this, right? I'm going to hand it over to you. Okay, leave it. You're coming up here. Yeah. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Bob.
All right. Thanks for everyone being here. I'm just going to start off with a brief intro of the Watershed, New Jersey, how we got to where we are. Working with the staff at Rutgers there, New Jersey DEP entered a contract to develop a tool. The tool came out for those that were in the session across, next door just prior to this. You can see there's a lot of different things out there that people need to map. People need to look at when they're looking at doing watershed-based plans and all type of planning. A lot of places, it's hard to get that information in one place. And you could see it. There's a map of one thing, there's a map of another. And the concept was, how do we take all of these different mapping tools, all of this different data, kind of roll it into one to look at what the health of a watershed is, what it looks like, what stressors may be there. So all of those things that are out there, how do we get that into a package and a tool that people could use at different levels, from people that are consultants to engineers, and even just people within, watershed associations or volunteers. How do we get that information out? So what we want to do is keep this moving. We want this to be interactive. There's going to be a lot to go over, and we really want feedback. So this is a great opportunity, to present where we are right now and any changes that we might want to make. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rick, and he'll kick it off with some more background and different info on Watershed, New Jersey.
Okay, so we, a year ago at last spring's or winter's conference, we first presented when we were just starting in terms of WatershedNJ. And so we wanted to give you an update, as Bob mentioned, in terms of where we are and then where we're going. And that's where we're hoping to get some feedback and input today. So an interactive online tool to support regional watershed planning. And so I'll give you a short, brief introduction. And then as part of the team here, Janine will then take over, and then Kate will play cleanup here. And then that's where we're going to ask for your input. Okay, so as Bob mentioned, there's a lot of different tools out there. We've been at Rutgers working with developing web-based visualization and decision support systems for over the past decade. I guess we first got involved back in like 2010, more focused on coastal issues. And then always the idea of moving upstream. And that's what WatershedNJ is about. And again, trying to make those linkages, okay, with the broader goal in terms of water quality improvement. Flooding and issues are inseparable, but the focus is in terms of water quality improvement. So we're trying to develop those linkages. And with all the tools that we've developed at Rutgers, it's always been an iterative and a long-term commitment. And so some of the tools we've developed back in 2012, we're on version 3 and 4 by now, because we keep trying to incrementally improve. So the 3 main objectives: develop a suite of online data and tools to support watershed management activities, to make the tool available to support multiple levels of users and their needs, so from watershed experts to the general public, and to enhance decision-making to understand and improve the health of watershed across the state. So this will be a statewide tool. And so just, as we come into this, we've called it WatershedNJ. And so again, this is kind of our intro page. And the way we've structured it is to have 3 major components. So what we're going to go today over is the watershed health assessment. So that's the tool that we've been spending a lot of effort on over the past year. And we're going to be rolling out very soon. We're now working on the water quality stressor tool, and that's where Kate, and then kind of wrapping that up in terms of, identifying some of the issues, being able to drill down in terms of the water stressor tool, and then how do we actually come up with potential solutions. So I'm going to hand this over to Janine, and she's going to give you a walkthrough in terms of the watershed health assessment. We had thought about doing it live, but they were told that they have spotty internet connection.
We have it just for a couple, in case we get a little fancy.
Yeah.
We'll get super doula. Thanks, Rick. Hi, everybody. Hi, my name's Janine. I want to make this walkthrough as informal but informative as possible. So as I'm going through, please raise your hand, ask questions. If I can't answer it, I might turn to my esteemed panel over here to help answer questions. But my job is to show you the breadth of information that we've put into one of the 3 web tools that are part of this WatershedNJ suite. We are in the beta testing stage, so this is not the final, but it is functioning. If you went online now, you could do a live demo and actually see how everything works and moves and plays, but I'll primarily be showing you screenshots. For the folks in the back, because it's screenshots of entire pages on a website, I would encourage you, if you want to get comfy cozy, come up a few rows, stay a while. You're welcome to that. Otherwise, I will not judge you. You can hang out there. That is totally fine. But I'm going to do about like 25-minute walkthrough and then leave some time for sure for questions at the end. But again, if you have any as I'm going through this, please raise your hand. This QR code, which I'll flash again at the end of our time together today, it's a link to a Google form that is like a 3-question listserv sign up. Who are you? What's your email? Can we contact you? So if you are interested, take a picture, fill it out, and we look forward to having you in the WatershedNJ listserv family. I promise not to spam you. So like Rick said, you would come to WatershedNJ by looking at that first screen that he showed you that had that bigger blue banner on top. This is the screen that you would come to if you clicked on this button right here that says watershed or says health assessment. And so this is your landing page for the watershed health assessment itself. You can see here that the general layout of the page will never change. So I'm just going to orient you to a couple things before we go into the nitty-gritty of watershed health. So along I remember this has a laser pointer. Ha. Okay. So along the top here on this gray bar, this is kind of our main navigation menu. So whenever you want to come home, you would come over here to a button that says select location. So the watershed health assessment is very location based. We wanted to make it so that anybody who went to this website could either put in a location on this map over here on the right-hand side, or select a watershed from this drop-down menu on the left-hand side and get a whole suite of information relevant to that watershed. And so those are the two ways that you can kind of pick your location. If you wanted to find information about another watershed, you would just have to come back to this homepage and re-enter your information, and the rest of the website will populate itself automatically. Some of the pages have a lot of information, which means you might need to take a deep breath before it fully loads itself, but it will come, and it's a lot of great content. And so going back to this gray bar up here, this is the select location where you would always navigate back to. And we have about 6 tabs up here that are relevant to our time together. This summary tab is going to be a snapshot of watershed health information. Kind of if you don't have a lot of time and you just want to get quick content to grab and go, the summary tab is your place to be. Watershed area is information about what's happening in your watershed itself. What is the extent of the watershed? What is the boundary? And you can kind of tell this is already telling a little bit of a story. Watershed area. Where is your watershed? Watershed health. What's going on in your actual watershed? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? Impacts to watershed health. What's causing the health of your watershed to be good or bad or in between? And then improving watershed health. What's happening to make your watershed healthier? So this tool has 2 other tabs. The last tab here is downloads. It's going to give you the ability to download any of the data that is populating the map that you're looking at. And then the user guide is currently like a 5-page document to kind of be a paper version of me walking you through the functionality of the watershed health assessment. This tool, go ahead, sure. So it's kind of a secret. It's kind of a secret. Like if I gave you the website, you could go to it and like play around, but not live yet. So, but I'm glad you said that, because we actually built this tool to be more for a desktop experience. So, but thank you for triggering that question and answer moment. Just because there is so much content, and you're going to see like the left side of the screen ends up being the more narrative piece. There's words that you would benefit from reading, and the right hand side is the more interactive component with a map that you can zoom in and out of and move around and see what you want to see. So that would be a lot for a phone, but we know it would be great to have it on a phone. That is okay. So that's our landing page. And just a quick note on audience, this tool can be used by anybody, but kind of the narrative that we had in our minds when we were designing it was for folks who really have no understanding that wherever they are in New Jersey, wherever they're on land, they're in a watershed. So taking them piece by piece through that journey of, oh, I'm in a watershed right now. What's happening in my watershed? But there's resources in here that could be used by municipalities to talk with their environmental commissions, or talk to anybody at the municipal level about decisions that are happening that could impact a watershed. This is a great educational tool for teachers to use in their classrooms, and so on and so forth. So this is a zoomed in picture of getting started in the drop-down menu. Whoops, excuse me. The drop-down menu where you would select your watershed. For the purposes of this presentation, I picked Ewing and the watershed that we're in right now. So let's see what's going on in this watershed. So as I teased, this is our watershed health summary page, the place that you would go to find information about a watershed at a glance. The way that we've structured each of these, what we're calling tabs, is at the top here, you'll see some fast facts. And actually clicking on these fast facts will open up some more information about your watershed. So the more you click, the more you learn. But if you didn't want to click too much, you would still be able to get a lot of information, even from just this quick glance. And so we have little fast facts written on the bottom of each of these buttons. So for the watershed that we're in right now, it is for a Huck 14, it is totaling 5,400 acres. So that's the fast fact that we gave you there to give a sense of how big the watershed is. And if you scroll down the page, you would be able to see a little bit more context here on the left-hand side. Again, the narrative is always going to be on the left-hand side, and the right-hand side is an interactive map. This one shows you the different Huck levels and lets folks zoom in at the more Huck 14 and get bigger. Yes, go ahead.
Would it give you information on like a Huck 10 level, or would you only be able to see like the summary of the Huck?
At this point, we're just Huck 14, but we do know that that kind of more big picture thinking is helpful to folks. Yeah, but keep those ideas in mind. And so I've just clicked the button on this advancing device, and you'll see now that this watershed health fast fact is highlighted. And so this text has now changed, and instead of seeing your Hucks, you're seeing a map of the integrated water designated uses from 2022. And so the darker shell polygons represent Huck 14 watersheds that are kind of higher in terms of their percent attaining their designated uses based on the integrated report from 2022. And the Huck 14s that are not as blue are the ones that are not achieving as many as their designated uses. The next one is our impacts to watershed health. The fast fact here is focused on impervious surface. And so the map that you're seeing on the right-hand side is the impervious cover based on NOAA CCAP. And we have an Excel spreadsheet that details kind of where all these data points came from. And also you'll see in a couple slides, if you ended up clicking these like little eye infographic icons in the narrative portion of the screen, it's really tiny, but I promise it's there. It would actually give you a link to a website that has the data that you could download, and it has the metadata information that you would need to get a more nitty-gritty understanding of where the data came from. And that also will occasionally hover on top of this kind of secondary fast fact tile, depending on how the data was kind of QA/QC'd and massaged by our team to make sure it was usable by folks in this format. Okay, and the fourth and final part of the summary is the improving watershed health fast fact. And in this one, we've chosen to highlight the watershed groups that are covering this area. So the map has the name of the Watershed Institute, surprise, covering this area. But if you zoom out, you would see a cover of the entire state for all the different watershed organizations that are there. Because the idea is if you're new to the watershed world and you're really like getting the watershed bug, you might want to actually know what the authority figure is in your community that you can go to learn more and to maybe be a volunteer citizen scientist, what have you. But we wanted to make sure that information was really easy for folks to find. So this screenshot here is a visual of the different information that is underneath each of these tabs. So again, trying to make it easy for folks to just blaze through this if they wanted to, but if they're curious, an ability for them to kind of drill down and get more detailed information about their watershed. So under this watershed health tab, there are categories called using my watershed, measuring watershed health, current conditions. Under the impacts to watershed health, we have natural resources, flooding and precipitation, soils and geology, stressors. And on this third tab over here called improving watershed health, we have current actions and kind of taking the next step. I have printouts of a user guide that outlines all this stuff. It's up on that table. If anybody is brave, you're welcome to walk up and grab one while I'm talking, but they'll be around if you want to grab one later. Okay, so we're going to go through each tab. Here we go. So watershed area, right? This is the first place if people want to just like get a basic sense of where am I, where is the watershed? We have 3 fast facts. The first one is that watershed boundary. So you can see the map over here, clearly delineating that boundary. And this is that screen then kind of scroll down. Things in red are things that I want to highlight for you guys. In this slide, what you're seeing in the narrative, sometimes we do have some interactive components. So for this one, we actually have a spot where it lists out the names of the different hucks that are kind of in that point or from that point. So where we are, the Huck 14 is the Mercer watershed, or Mercer/Calhoun St. to Jacobs Creek watershed. The Huck 12 has a different name, Huck 10 and Huck 8. So helping people make that connection of place to name. Next up, we are in the streams and water bodies fast fact section. And you might be saying, Janine, there's already so much information. How did you organize it beyond these fast facts? There are more tabs, everyone. Rest assured, never fear. So if you are selecting the streams and water bodies button, it will populate the left side over here with some even more fun compartments of information. So the streams and water bodies will just list out the different streams and freshwater shorelines that are in your area. And so those are delineated by some blue lines over here. But if you kept on going, you would be able to find information about the salinity of the water bodies in your area. I zoomed out so you could see that there is indeed different information along the coast. It is actually a working layer. And then if you kept on going, we have tidal water. So what percentage of the waters in your watershed are influenced by the tides? Up in Ewing, 0% of the waters are tidal, which is not surprising. And so that's just giving you a snapshot of how, oh, go ahead, Kate.
Not live yet. We just haven't QA/QC'd all of the data points. So if you see something weird,
Like 24% non-tidal waters.
They can't hear you.
sorry. So just, yeah, that's one of the reasons is that's one of our last horizons. So if you see something weird in here, feel free to flag it, but also don't be too concerned about the numbers not adding up to 100% today. Because by the time we release it to you, we want to make sure it's all correct. Thanks, Janine.
And so the next one in this streams and water bodies category is stream order. So for folks who are wanting to communicate information about your watershed based on that statistic, we have it for you there. The sub fast fact here is that the average stream order in this watershed is a 2. And finally, this is the upstream and downstream connections page. And what we're trying to do with this is trying to help folks who are using this tool understand that what you're doing in your watershed has an impact downriver, and the things that are happening in your watershed are possibly occurring upstream from you. So trying to help people start thinking regionally about watershed issues. And that's a theme that's recurrent throughout this tool. So we have information about upstream land and waters. The map that you see here is mapping out the entire stream network above this actual watershed. So the area that kind of contributes to the water quality in Ewing. And then downstream water. So this is a map that kind of plots the flow of water that's leaving the watershed. So there are little arrows that will tell you the direction of the stream flow. And then if you zoomed out of the map, you can see kind of where it's going, a big picture. So going out from the Raritan area and then also going out through the Delaware Bay. We're glad to hear it, whoever said that. Thank you. So the watershed health tab. Next tab. Any questions about that watershed area? Go for it. Oh, sorry. I'm just kidding.
Hold on.
I don't have that power. Sorry.
Do you plan on including the names of the streams in the watershed for somebody that might not know where they are?
If you look at the map, I think the stream names are on the the base layer. Like, hold on, because I can't even see it. I think it's in there. It's not on this picture, but I'm pretty sure
Yes, it is.
is, so, for example, Aspen Pink Creek, right there.
Okay, so it's in the map. Okay.
Click.
Well, so, sorry, let's wait till the end, because they.
Okay.
I'll, we have to talk to that.
We'll remember your question. Thank you.
We won't be so chaotic.
It was a good question. Okay, so next up is our watershed health tab. And so this one has a lot of information. This is just one of the sub tabs. So if you went up to the top of your screen here and clicked watershed health, there would be 4 options that drop down. So using my watershed is just one of those 4 options. And so this tab, like that little summary says on the top of the screen, this tab identifies various important services watersheds provide New Jersey residents, including opportunities for recreation, drinking water, and carrying away waste. And so this first section is telling you information about watershed users. So we want to know how many people are living in this watershed. It's based on the census information here, it's about 24,000. How many housing units are in this watershed? About 12,000. And what percentage of the area this watershed covers has overburdened communities? 43.1%. So this map is showing you the an overlay of those environmental justice overburdened communities areas. Next up, what are the recreation opportunities? So this is showing the different fishing lakes and pond opportunities, trout stocked streams in the area. If you were along the coast, if there were any tidal public access points. And that red circle there is a reminder for me to tell you what I think I already said, which is if you clicked on the eye icon next to any of these names at the top of the narrative, it would take you to this website or to the specific page that has the data that's being discussed in that map. So up here you can see trout stocked lakes and additional information about the layer there that you can download for your own purposes. We have now moved on to drinking water in the watershed. And again, this is one of those narratives that has multiple sub bonus tabs for your enjoyment. This sub tab is showing you the source of drinking water in a watershed loosely. And you can see here, I zoomed out on the map, this is the different areas that are being serviced by different water providers or purveyors. The other facts on the sheet include what area of the watershed is being served by public water supply and what percentage is being served by well water. Next, once we touch on sources, what is the actual public water supply area? So this map is showing you 2 things. The first thing are these different bullseye areas. Those are the wellhead protection areas for public community water supply wells. And the second kind of coloring underneath that, the more tie-dyed looking colors are the public water supply source areas for this watershed. And then next is a private well water testing map. And so this is an page where we're trying to show information about the private well testing data that has been collected over time. And so the fast fact here is showing you the most common contaminant for private wells in the watershed. And this is another instance of a page that has some more interactive components in the actual narrative. So it's listing out the primary and secondary contaminants of those wells in the watershed. So all this information is publicly available. It's just pulling it all together, like Bob said, in one spot. Next is the wastewater tab. So we have information for you here about sewage. So what is the sewage service in the area of the watershed, like how much area of the watershed is serviced by the public sewer, and what percentage of the watershed is covered by septic. So sewage and septic. And then the second thing in this wastewater piece is telling you about stormwater runoff. So showing you in the map how many stormwater outfalls are in a watershed and beyond, as well as how many combined sewer overflow outfalls. And so the different colors of the map over here are for the different tiered MS4 system outfalls, as well as, I guess, who owns, not who owns, but in some instances it's the highway MS4 outfall. Okay, so now we're into the second drop down for the watershed health tab. And this is the page where we're teaching you about measuring watershed health. And so for this one, we are using the macroinvertebrate AMNet scoring system to give a snapshot of overall watershed health, because knowing the biological health of a water body and a watershed is the best way to kind of get a snapshot of that long-term water body health, as opposed to water quality sampling itself. So that's why we chose to highlight AMNet in this. And the reason why I have a red box around this teaser is because it's me showing you that if you were on the real website and you hovered over one of these icons, you would be getting information about how we chose to summarize some of this information. So this watershed has a fair macroinvertebrate water quality indicator score. But if you're reading that, you're like, well, what does fair mean? How did you guys decide that you're going to call it fair? That's how we decided we were going to call it fair. So trying to, again, put information at people's fingertips. And then also we have fish and shellfish information as well. And I love the decision to use actual fish as the icon for this. It makes my heart really happy. And then just to zoom out so you can see that there are, it extends to the coast as well for that shellfish information. The next piece in this measuring watershed health pie is the water quality standards. So for this one, we are trying to showcase the trends in water quality of water bodies actually meeting their water quality criteria. So these different arrows indicate how the watershed is doing in terms of meeting, or in terms of the goodness of their water quality. So if the arrow is going up, the water quality is increasing over time. And the colors in the background there are should be a little bit familiar to you from the summary page. That is showing you the percent of designated uses that have been attained in that watershed from the last integrated report. And so because designated uses have been something that people can normally latch onto, or at least they've maybe heard about designated uses in their watershed, I just wanted to make sure that these descriptions were a little bit larger for folks who might have questions on it about how we pulled that data together. And also, you know, sometimes there's missing data. So one of these subtabs is talking about designated uses that didn't get met because there just wasn't data around to say whether or not the designated use is met or not. So making sure that that was captured in this information as well. And this one is a summary of the water quality impairments. So in this watershed, you're seeing 303D impairments, but the darker colors on the map to the right there are showing the areas that have more impairments than the lighter colored areas. And again, another interactive opportunity. This is showing folks what the impaired designated uses are for a watershed. And some of this information would also pop up if you were clicking around on the map on the right as well. And as well as plans for priority impairments. So the map over here is displaying the number of TMDLs within the HUC boundary, and there are no TMDL plans in the watershed that we're in right now. Current conditions is another page of the watershed health family. This one is still work in development because we're trying to make it so that some tide gauge data and stream flow data that's being collected continuously at various spots in New Jersey is being fed into watershed health assessment. So we're working on that. And this is where that would go. But right now we do have it populated with current water quality advisories because we thought that was important for folks to know and to see. So eventually we will have information about recent rainfall amounts as well as recent stream flow. So folks can interact with that. Next, we have the impacts to watershed health. I am brushing up on my time, so I'll probably blaze through this one a little bit faster. But suffice it to say that in this suite of tabs, we wanted to make sure that we were showing folks the good things that were happening in their watershed and the bad things. So that's why in that drop down there for impacts to watershed health, you're seeing the natural resources that are around, but you're also seeing flooding and precipitation and stressors. The soils and geology is just helping folks get a more complete story about what's happening in their watershed at ground level. So we have conserved open space being highlighted here. So the different colors on the map there are the different types of conserved open space: federal, state, county, municipal, etc. This map is showing the conservation for biodiversity. This is the PADUS score. And this is showing the total natural area in the watershed. Another fun interactive feature, if you scroll down on this page, you would see a really cool pie chart that we made to help folks understand the different pieces of land cover that are in the watershed. So if you were to hover your mouse over, let's say, this kind of slice of the pie chart would end up looking like this, which is really fun. Next up, some of the good things, right? Tree cover. We love tree cover. So this is showing total tree cover canopy for shrub and other tree. This is the natural forest cover. So the map is of upland forest and wooded wetlands. Next up is our wetland tab, and we have a lot of great information here about wetlands. This is the product of a wetland scoring schema that was developed by Rutgers last year and is kind of being debuted in the watershed health assessment here. And so it's just a really great resource for folks who are trying to maybe prioritize certain wetlands for protection or restoration. I don't know if anybody on the team wants to say anything about it beyond that. Okay. And then we have the riparian area, so more natural areas, a lot of different ways to think about the natural resources in a watershed. Flooding and precipitation. We're giving folks information about average precipitation, extreme precipitation rates, as well as average and extreme flooding. And I'm going to break out my fancy for a moment and make sure that I show you all the stressors component of this. If I was a mouse, there it is. Thank you. So maybe it was good that it wasn't a fully live demo. But if you went down here to the stressors tool, and I wanted to make sure this was pulled up because we're going to be talking to you guys about it next, or a derivation of it next. This tab is going to have some more robust information about the different stressors that could be impacting water body health in a watershed. Right now we have impervious service highlighted, but there is an entirely separate water quality stressors tool that we're developing. So depending on how that shakes out, it will inform how the stressors are presented here. And the mouse came back to me, which is always very exciting. Maybe. Okay. It's a really nice background. Oh, I know what I did. That did not fix it.
Help.
I'm sorry. She did a really good job of explaining it to me, and then I pushed the wrong button.
Never happens, like.
I think it's,
Yeah.
oh, because I stopped sharing.
I
That
think you're
happened.
here. We're gonna level speed. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna do this,
There it is.
and then I'm gonna share it to the screen.
You crushed it. Thank you.
I just want, oh, I think it is shared.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we're back on track. Precipitation information. We're here for it. Improving watershed health tab. So this is the last substantive tab with information. This is the tab where we're highlighting current actions to help folks kind of key in on different ways to make change in their watershed for the better, or at least be informed about the actions that are going on in their watershed. So we have the opportunity for folks to learn about the management and organization of their watershed, where they're going to learn about the different watershed organizations in their watershed. They're going to learn about Sustainable Jersey certifications, which is a shout out for the last presentation that was in here, as well as watershed management areas. For this next tab, existing watershed plans, we are showing where the different watershed-based plans are for watershed. Right now, there are none specifically for Ewing, but we're seeing some in the neighboring area, as well as any active TMDLs for this location. Next, we have land and water resource protections. So we're talking about different surface water quality protections, riparian zones that are in the watershed, you see on the map on the right, wetland buffers in the space, regional planning areas to aid in some more regional conversations that folks might be having with their neighbors about watershed health, as well as wild and scenic rivers of New Jersey. This is zoomed out because they're all over the place. And then finally, completed restoration projects. We're pulling from publicly available data layers. So even though there are probably more completed restoration projects in Ewing than this one lone soldier, but that's what this map is showing. Talked about the download tabs, an easy way to download information if you didn't want to go through the eye icons that were on your page before. And then this is all the information that's in the watershed health assessment. And it's on 2 slides. So if this is listed out in the user guide. So basically, if you wanted to find information specifically on like, oh, are there any fish consumption advisories? You could search for it and it comes up here. So you would know to go under the current conditions tab of the watershed health tab. And so that was a lot of information. And I appreciate you guys sticking with it. But I will take questions now. I just want to make sure that we leave about half an hour for our final activity. We have about 10 minutes for
I think
questions that you guys might have.
It worked well when they brought the mic over here so that any of us can answer.
But I remember there was a question about the names of
Okay,
the
yeah, but I
rivers
want her
in
to,
the map.
otherwise I'll have to repeat what she says, so I'd
Or
prefer.
am I allowed to take this guy off? Is that what? Or
Yeah,
or we
I'd
can
just
come up
rather
here. Do you wanna come
her
up
ask
here?
her question so everyone can hear it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Should I ask?
Yes, please.
Okay. I have a couple questions. First of all, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's really great.
Shout out to that team.
I can't wait to, until it, let's see.
It's actually Steve.
I can't wait for it to be live so I can really look through everything. There's a lot of information. Just a couple questions. So, and you might have gone through this already because you did cover a lot of information. On the recreational tab, was there, locations of like boat ramps, canoe and kayak, put-ins or anything like that? That would be a lot to do for the whole state, but I'm just curious.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Kate has joined us. Hello. So we're only able to, within our scope, add data sets that are existing. And so we incorporated the fishing ones, and there really wasn't anything that we could point to for that, but we did include some links.
Oh, yeah.
So at least, we tried to point, but there was nothing that we could grab. So if there was something, we'd be happy to incorporate it, basically.
Okay. I have a couple more, sorry.
Don't be
so,
sorry.
on the flooding maps, do they come from the FEMA flood maps or what, where?
Yeah, so the flood, there's a few different things. One is an average flooding, which was a model that Rutgers did. Then there's a FEMA, and then we did the FEMA +3, that's new design flood elevation recommendation. And really the tool, we didn't, there's a lot about flooding, and our tool, because as Dr. Lathrop said, water quality and flooding related, inextricably related. So we included it. But if you really want to dig into it, we're going to point you out to other resources.
Okay, one more question, two more questions real quick. So the water quality advisories on there, do you get into specific contaminations in water, like PFAs or other things? And the alerts, what kind of alerts are there? Like, are there elevated salt alerts, or what other kind of alerts?
The current conditions, it's the beach advisories that are available so the beach closures and HABs. So within like the past year, HABs in your watershed and fish consumption, but that all kind of goes to the same issue of like things that we could kind of access. So actually the kind of data that you're talking about, that's not available very frequently.
Yeah.
And so we can actually, one of the designated use ones, you can get to that through there, but we don't really get into that level of nitty gritty in this tool.
Okay. And the last question is, when will it be available?
So-
or live?
So we're going to be beta testing it in the next month. If anybody wants to be considered to be part of the beta testing, come find me after, or sign up on the QR code that was before. So after the beta testing, depending on how much people love it or they don't love it, it could take a little bit more time to like fix any problems that are there. But I'm going to keep it vague like that, but it will be like soon, like this year soon.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Like,
sooner than this
yeah.
year even. I mean,
Yeah.
but
I don't,
like,
yeah, you guys can say whatever month you want.
I have a quick navigation question, if I may. For example, when I click on one of the little eye icons and something else opens up, when I close that, will it take me right back to where I was, or is it going to, do I have to start over again?
So it'll open a new tab.
Oh,
So,
it's all new tabs.
yeah,
Okay.
You'll still have where you were saved, like it will still be on your screen.
And sorry,
Excellent.
the
Thank you.
question from earlier that we cut off because of the mic thing about the stream names. So we don't specifically have the stream names listed, but on the very beginning in the watershed area, you can click on that and get the name out of a pop-up. And if there's a reason you need a list of the names, that's something we could consider adding. But we run into the thing where you would get like 10 unnamed tributaries, and so it kind of depends what you would need it for, but you can at least click on it.
So be clicking on this map to the right.
Yeah, and get a pop-up.
Okay.
Great presentation, by the way. So I had a couple of questions. Bob, I know you were working on a tool that overlaid groundwater private well testing act data and surface water quality data. Is that included in this?
They did talk about the private well testing act data, getting the surface water quality data. Getting, private well testing, they showed some of those background results, but we can't get to the data. That's the unfortunate part of that because it is private. But they will say what was there, just like any of the data, this is what was found % of wells. Looking at the surface water quality data, it's something we've talked about a lot. And it's how do we get that out and clean it up? And that's still a work in progress. Because as we know, coming out of the portal, there's a lot of issues with data and cleanup and how that gets cleaned up. Nitrate in 20 years has 5 different names in the portal. different units. All of those need to be cleaned up before you can get to that, but that's not off the table. That's something that I'm still working on with staff. You know, I've mentioned it with Rutgers staff, and we're talking about it internal at DEP. And if we do get that, we would love to have that overlaid and attached to this.
And so the improving water health tab, you had like completed restorations. So is there a pipeline to like input BMPs, green stormwater infrastructure projects that are taking place so that that can be mapped?
I think that's a good idea. It's not currently built into the system. We've had separate conversations about how people might be able to interact with WatershedNJ writ large with their own data. And so it's things that we're thinking about it. But no plans for that right now.
Yeah, because I'd love to have a repository for where all the GSIs are going in, where as a watershed association, when we look at hotspots and prioritizing work, it would be nice to know where work has already been done or work has been put in and failed. That's also nice to know too, so.
So we have the 319 project locations. We could potentially add like water bank infrastructure projects in the future. But again, it really comes down to like those things just being collected in some way that we can reflect.
We also, at DEP, we have a separate one of where restoration projects were complete, and that map is now publicly available. So it's only on the complete projects that was more recently completed.
One more, and then I'll go to you and we'll move around. Here you go.
Thank you guys for remembering.
Okay,
this
so
question.
I was just on the private well testing data. So on the one screen, I think you said there was like 96% of the watershed is using sewer. So then there's probably a very small percentage of wells, but then the map is showing the whole watershed. And is that because you don't have the specific data?
Yeah, we definitely don't have the specific data for that. And one thing, the state has a really excellent dashboard for that data. So we didn't want to really replicate that. We just wanted to kind of give the highlights from that. So that was just saying in this watershed, these are the main contaminants that you're likely to find.
But it's probably from one well.
Like yeah, that may be, yeah. And it does
I don't know. I think that might need to be calibrated in places because it shows it like a big pink color, and then you're like, wait a minute, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we can think
in places where there's few wells.
Just in terms of some of the mapping shows well beyond that particular huck. So some of those areas from the well were outside of the target huck per se. So.
Hi, so I'm a watershed ambassador, and I can say that this is like life-changing, actually. So I had a few things. So this is my watershed management area. And I noticed on the downstream map that it included the DNR canal. And I was just wondering why, not in like an accusatory questioning, I don't know why, but just why you decided to choose like a man-made kind of structure like that in this?
Yeah, so the way this was done is we used the NHG, the National Hydrography Data Set, and just whatever network they had mapped, we included. But we're actually we're going to update that, and we're going to exclude those man-made ones so that we're more showing the natural. But then I think we'll do a secondary one that includes the man-made connections. So you can either say like, this is my natural watershed, and then these are some of the connections we've added. And I got Kathy Hale shaking her head back there. Maybe we can talk more after. Well, so, right, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Yeah. So, we want to maybe show it in both ways.
Maybe I might see them The other.
So you might have recognized.
Hold on,
Yeah, wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
This is why we can come sit with you, so there's one mic, but.
Yeah, you may have realized when she showed the upstream, it included all the Delaware. Okay, it's because it incorporated the canal, and then rather than because of the watershed that was chosen, you had this like Ewing and the whole Delaware. It's because of that canal, and then it just populated, the entire upper Delaware. But it's because it's relying on this NHD and national, and so that's where you had to go with.
And it, it looks a little funkier in the Delaware and in, certain areas. And if you, if we had picked a nice inner New Jersey one, we could have showed you a cleaner story, but yeah. No, it's good. It's good to see the edge cases. Still your mic.
Yeah,
Let's talk again. Yeah.
quick question. First of all, that looks like a grape hyacinth and I love it. It's beautiful. But so swinging in the other direction from canals, does this show, or would you be looking to show in the future, groundwater recharge? Because that's a really important function of watershed management, is recharging our groundwater.
Sure.
I blazed past
Yeah.
it.
So in the
Oh,
soil,
okay.
so maybe she can unpack the soils a little bit more. What we have is the groundwater recharge, that New Jersey Geological Survey method, which is, the combination of the soils and the land use. And then there's like a formula in there. So in terms of that type of groundwater recharge, we will be showing that. And we also have a few kind of important Surgo, the USDA soil database, kind of a couple of important layers from that related to kind of soil infiltration. And that's about as far as we go. But, if you had ideas of something really specific you wanted for that, we could talk about that.
I'm going to make the executive decision. Now we need to go on. So, thanks for his questions, because we want to.
Yeah, but this is amazing, and we'd love to, talk one-to-one of all your questions, and we're going to have a beta testing where you can click through everything. So please, participate more. This was already great.
I have one from the audience
Thank you.
at home.
Sure.
It says, fabulous resource. This is Christine Dunbar. Will information regarding smart growth areas similar to what the New Jersey Conservation Blueprint site has?
Thanks for that question. So on the current act, or the improving, kind of our next, there's two more things that Dr. Lathrop showed. I'm going to talk next about the stressors tool, but our final horizon is our improvements tool, and we're definitely going to include that in that as a consideration, and we'll probably also add that new model to our site as well. We're not going to like relitigate it because they did a great job, so we'll probably just use what they already put together on that smart growth. Okay, so we don't have a ton of time, but I just want to flash through kind of where we're going and get an opportunity to, get a little reaction from everybody here in the room. So, this next tool is going to be a stressor search tool. And the goal of it is to help identify potential sources of water quality impairment in your area and kind of quickly compile some suspects and some of the most common sources of impairments that we already know about, so you can kind of rule some things out and help you in your field investigations. So the connection, we're going to have some more kind of preset things in that watershed health assessment that you just saw. But the stressor search, you'll be able to customize your area of interest. So if, a HUC 10, a HUC 8, a municipality, whatever it is, you can customize where you want to search. We'll have both a broad collection of stressor types, but also some curated collections focusing on a few main stressors types. So I'll come back to that. And then from that, you can output maps, reports, and some different types of outputs that will kind of take you on to your next step, because we know we can only take you so far, but we want to take you as far as we can. So example that we want to serve in this tool, it would be a question like, why isn't my water safe for recreation? And so this is the Raritan River Hydrological Observatory, and the Lower Raritan Partnership has been doing a great job of doing this sampling. And so they might take a look at this sampling from last fall and say like, go upriver a little bit, Rutgers Boathouse looking good, smiley face, and then down at the Edison Boathouse and below, something's going on here with this fecal coliform and the levels are high. So can we kind of figure out some possible sources? So where we might start, you could find the contributing area to that point. So we would drop our point and say, we want to know the upstream catchments to here. And this is actually from a functionality that's already available from this water viewer. You can see the tab down in the lower left. So I'm going to delineate that area so I can kind of see what's coming in. And then pull out some of the common sources of fecal coliform. And so actually, there's no sanitary sewer outfalls or Egyptes outfalls there. But there's a lot of MS4 stormwater outfalls. We see some areas with less riparian buffer or kind of an impaired riparian buffer. But this is still a big area. So I'm thinking near, because we saw, well, upstream is kind of okay, because you're kind of looking in here, we got a bunch of marshes. So let's focus in on this area. So we could redraw our area of interest and then kind of zoom in on that area and then see, wow, there's a lot of stormwater outfalls here. And you could then output a report with those points and some extra information that you could then take out in the field and do some inspections to sort of support that process. So, we'd love to hear from you, like when you're trying to answer questions like this, what kind of reports would be useful? What do you need in hand or, on your computer? And there's a lot of other questions you might ask. So one, another example would be, what are the sources of phosphorus for the TMDL in my area? And there's some flexible workflows that we want to build. And so first, when you define your area of interest, you can provide your own polygon. So if it's a TMDL area, for example, you could just provide that. There'll be some pre-loaded kind of common options like the HUCs, municipalities, so you could pick that, or you could do like I showed in that other example where you delineate kind of a catchment area. And you can kind of go back and forth to fine tune it. So this would be like, I draw one, I select one, and then the delineation. And then for the stressors, we will provide a large range of facilities and land cover types. So those point locations versus extent of kind of stressor sources. But then working with Bob, he indicated 3 models that will be much more curated based on the most common TMDLs, and that's phosphorus, E. coli, and biological. So if you go in and you want to find those types of sources, we will have kind of the GIS and a little bit of kind of track down type guidance preloaded for those particular parameters at this time. And we will incorporate some monitoring data. So the USGS stream gauges. So this is also from the Raritan Hydrological Observatory. So they have like just an example. You can take stream flow, select date ranges, anything that's in there, temperature, if there's extra parameters, we can show that. And then it's also possible that we would be incorporating some water quality monitoring data as well. And which data we include could also be guided by, you know, what you need and how you would use it, because it is pretty tricky to sort through. So we're not going to like build the whole water quality portal interface, but we can maybe extract some things that are useful. We'll include parcels, upstream, downstream trace, some connection to NGEMs, and this is just kind of an example of the water quality data. So I'm 5 minutes left, so I'm going to hand it to Janine. That's the really quick version of kind of where we're headed, and we'll give you a little time to give us feedback.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're asking the questions now.
Thank you, Kate. So basically, some of you, I didn't get to this section of the audience, but I hit it around Post-it notes. And if anybody needs a writing implement, I have a little cup of fun mini golf pencils. I know we're almost out of here today, but we would really appreciate you all taking those couple minutes that we have left and reflecting on the questions that Kate has posed. What we've done is put these like little flip chart things around the room. They're in 4 different spots. Each of the flip charts corresponds to one of these questions. We would love it if you on your Post-it notes could reflect or write a thought, write a handful of thoughts, and maybe put those Post-it notes, not maybe, please put those Post-it notes on the corresponding flip chart. And when you put the Post-it note on the flip chart, you might see somebody who said something that you also agree with. Put a little star next to it, put a smiley face, put a heart, put something to make us realize that, oh, more than one person thinks this is a good idea. We'll be hanging out here, kind of meandering around the boards if anybody has any questions. But this is just kind of our first very rough cut at seeing what the audience might want, because you guys are ultimately a big chunk of our end users. So we want to make sure that what we're building fits the end users' needs.
Can I ask that our remote audience just put them in the Q&A, and we will make sure they get to our presenters.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, who needs a pencil? Okay.
We offer you a Post-it.
You offline subsequently.
We're in trouble.
Thank you. See you, Harold Zero. Seems like you come up in everything we've been doing. And you used to work with Larry Niles, did you?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I still do.
yeah.
If there's
So
one question
Larry
you
and
have
Mandy
8
came
responses for,
to do a science Monday lecture for us in
Take
Mama
whatever.
County, the Brookton.
Oh, okay. Okay. Recently or just
Just this past week.
And the cover, when you the land use, it's a special chart. What do you guys have
the land use land cover, is that one from the New Jersey?
It was a pie chart.
Oh, that,
That's land use land cover.
so
Oh.
that's a New Jersey data there. I think they updated it in
2020.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And like what I see is that we are not making enough connection of that to climate. So would you?
data for
The last slide. Or do you have more after this?
No, this is pretty much it, but we'll give 1 minute and then we'll do a wrap.
Okay, and then we'll, because I have one last part at the end of the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Just as.
so sorry, I'm going to interrupt. The conversations that are happening, please keep having them. And yeah, do your Post-its, and the Watershed host just has a little wrap up that they're going to say for all of us. And then thank you so much for joining this conversation.